Wow, so we are live for another session. Welcome everyone to CoachesCorner.health. Hello, I am Leslie Gadet, mindset and emotional awareness coach for mission driven women who want to make a bigger impact in the world by pursuing their passion project or exploring stepping into entrepreneurship. I show them how to embrace what they're good at, that they don't have to choose between having their 9 to 5 and their passion project, that it's possible for them to explore entrepreneurship and still keep doing what they love in their corporate job, and that it's all possible to get things done more efficiently and timely and still have time for fun and loved ones. And how
Yeah.
I show them is that when you develop the tools to cultivate and keep an unstoppable mindset, when you learn how to manage your emotions so they don't steal your time, you are free to be in flow so you can design a life you love living. Andy, over to you.
Yeah. I love that. I love how that has evolved over the last few months. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
I'm Andy Lidstone. I'm the unconditional coach. I also call myself the midnight coach or sometimes the boundaries coach. I help people figure out how to connect through boundaries
Mm-hmm.
instead of how we've been traditionally taught to use boundaries to separate ourselves from people. I want to teach people how to connect through boundaries. So that's what I do. And all kinds of situations in all kinds of types of relationships, even including the relationship with ourselves. So that's let's dive into today's topic. Introduce that for us.
Yeah, so I was really excited to actually come up with today's topic because it's really kind of near, kind of like near and dear. I don't know if I would say near and dear to my heart, but it kind of is
Yes.
because I want our listeners to know that we are real, like we
Mm.
really do have things that we go through, and
Yep.
the things that we go through and that we find our way through is why we want to be able to bring these topics to you, because we want to share with you what we found, our experiences, and how possibly it might help you. And so the reason why I thought speaking up, what does that even mean for me, as just as a human, as a woman, I always found it hard to say what I wanted because, well, long ago when I was a young girl, I remember I had an experience where someone had told me to slow down, to stop speaking so quickly, that people are not going to be able to understand what you have to say. And it kind of made me feel it stuck with me, and I didn't even
Yeah.
realize it stuck with me until it kind of came back to me during a coaching call that I had done a few weeks ago with my own coach. And I realized, oh, this is what I've been doing is I've been afraid to speak up for myself, asking for what I want, because what I truly believed, and I started stacking onto it, was that in order for me to be able to speak up for the things that I wanted, I actually had to give more and more and more of myself, more of my time, just more of me in order to be able to
Yeah.
be worthy and deserving of anything that I
Right.
received. And so the speaking up became really a hard piece of my life. Like, it became very hard for me, and I realized that I wasn't feeling confident enough about who I am. Even as a coach, I wasn't feeling confident. And again, these are just things that get revealed to us over time. And I love this. In fact, I'm glad that it's not like I'm one and done and I'm the best coach in the world. What I
Right.
love is learning about myself and adding on to all of the things that I'm learning about myself, adding that into my type style of coaching, being able to resonate with the people that I teach, that I coach, that I talk with. And so that's kind of like where it came into play for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a lot of the same experience where um, I felt it was dangerous to speak up. And unlike most people, I didn't find it was dangerous for me because I grew up having consequences for things, unreasonable consequences for things that were often beyond my control. So I quickly became used to having consequences. I'm the kind of guy that'll own up to my mistakes and or take consequences for things that weren't even my fault. Um, that hasn't been my problem. But my problem has been when other people were taking consequences for things that I said or did. This is something I recently said to my coach as well. Is I don't have a problem, you know, taking responsibility for the things that I do. The problem that I have is when other people have consequences for the things that I do. If I share an opinion and somebody else is hurt by that opinion, if I take an action and somebody else pays the cost of that action, if I make a choice and somebody else has to bear the consequences of my choices, those are the things that I don't like. And that's made it hard for me to speak up. That's made it hard for me to say what I feel. It's made it hard for me to believe in myself, to really truly lean into my own thoughts and feelings and messages. It's actually the concept of unconditional boundaries that I came up with. I came up with that 3 years ago, and I've only been leading into actually telling people about it for the past 3 to 6 months. And that's partly because I didn't want to hurt people by teaching them something that I didn't truly understand how to teach. So yeah, I completely understand the not speaking up thing, because sometimes it just costs too much.
Yeah. And one of the pieces as well is I don't, I guess I'm really comfortable now about being vulnerable, open and vulnerable. I've been through a lot of things in my life, as we both have. We've talked about
Yeah,
that. And I am okay with being open and vulnerable because I truly believe, because I'm in a good place, that everything that's happened to me in my life, I might resonate with someone having similar
right,
experiences and I can help them.
right.
The other part, though, is when you're open and vulnerable, it leaves you open to and being interpreted by others, like the type of person you are. And that can lead to labeling, and that can lead to them creating an identity for you, which isn't necessarily true. And you and I actually talked about this earlier this week
Yes.
based on someone else's perception of something that you had said.
Yeah.
And it didn't mean that that's who you are, but that
Right.
person then decided to label that just a post that we had talked about. And I really felt, it's unfortunate, but it's important for people to realize that when we decide to put out there our interpretation around another person based on maybe something they've said or based on something they've posted without really knowing that person, it can be extremely harmful. And because of that, can lead to this person feeling very um unsure of, uncertain, maybe scared to speak up for themselves, and maybe possibly stop speaking up for themselves. And that's, I think, a really important thing that people need to start thinking about, especially even from their own perspective, because I'm sure all have that one story in our lives where we have felt like, oh, someone has judged us based on something they saw or heard without really getting to who I am or who we are as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I came to on the other side of that story, um, is, and I'm talking specifically about the story we were talking about earlier this week, but also in a more general sense, what I came to is when I speak up and become vulnerable, it does open up other people to judge me. It does open up other people to ridicule me. It does open up other people to label me and put me in a box. And it opens up other people to relate to me. It opens up other people to understand that myself in them, my story in them, to see a part of me in their life. And whether or not they see a part of me in their life has less to do with how good of a storyteller I am or how good I am at relating to people, and much more to do with where they're at in their lives. So the more I'm vulnerable, the more I open up, the more I tell my honest truth, the way that it honestly feels to me, the more people can relate to me, the more, not all people, because quite honestly, more and more people will judge and ridicule me and put me in a box and, keep me out of their lives. More and more people will do that. And those people who do relate will relate more deeply, will relate more on a more personal level. As you and I have learned to become more vulnerable with each other in our businesses, we have learned to become closer as partners, closer as friends even.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have learned what it's like to be inside each other's heads without having to um, fear that ridicule and that judgment. Because quite honestly, I'm sure there is judgment there between you and I sometimes, and that's part of the process. It's okay. You know, we can lean into that if we're willing to accept that part. The payoff, the reward, is a much deeper connection with the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's what it came down to. Speaking up, yes, it has the risk of hurting myself, of hurting people around me, of really costing other people their their self worth, their self esteem, their self judgment, and it also has the risk of allowing people to connect with you, and they come hand in hand. You can't have one without the other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I got to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things I was just thinking about as you were speaking was, having, we've really gotten to know each other very well. Um, we've never met in person.
Right? Never met
The
in person.
relationship has been this way from the very beginning, but we've known each other for quite some time. And we've gotten to understand a little bit more about each other as people. And then, of course, the businesses that we're both in. And especially because we share this common drive of like our spiritual vision for the world, but also what we
Mhm.
do as coaches. And one of the things, like you had said, was about how we you probably are most certain that we may have judged each other. And I think what that started me thinking about was, think of it as someone, if especially if you're reading text, or someone says something and you're not quite sure the backstory behind it. I look at it
Mhm.
as almost as look at it as if you're reading an email and someone's sending it to you. Now you don't know on the other side. They could be giggling. They could be putting in the inflections in the places where they think it's supposed to go, but that's in their head.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that comes across. It might come across as abrasive. And I think when we start looking at things and picking them apart based on just how it sounds the way that we're reading it, because words really are kind of like that vanilla. There is
Yeah.
there's no way to know exactly how the other person is feeling unless, and that's, I think that's why people put in the emojis, with the smiley
Yeah.
faces, with the wow faces, with the exclamation marks, the hearts, and all of that. And I think that was probably, if not the most leading reason why emojis were created in the first place, was to create a connection emotionally to what was being said or
Yeah.
posted.
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking about what you were saying, I was thinking, yeah, there has been, I think, probably times where we've actually had discussions where they got a little
Yeah.
heated,
Yeah.
but I I told you that I really appreciate those discussions because I don't want someone telling me what I want to hear. I
Right.
want someone to be open, honest. I think integrity is really valuable. I think honesty is really valuable. It shows me that the person actually has thoughts of their own and is not willing to maybe back down from their own beliefs, but also is willing to share from a place of not necessarily being combative, but saying, hey, the reason why I'm pushing back is this, because, and that's how we have been with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've learned over the past couple of years of knowing each other
Yeah.
to be able to push back with each other, having conversations over the past couple of years that we have, because we learned that it's not coming from a place of, I'm trying to put you down, I'm trying to put
Right.
you under my foot. It's, we've built a connection. But when it comes to social media, as an example, you see a post out there and you have the opportunity to decide how it's going to resonate with you.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be to read it more than once, because then you can kind of say, well, what did this person really mean by that? What were they trying to get across? I think as if we learn to start actually trying to understand the other parties when they're speaking up, maybe we can stop making judgments about other people and interpreting what their messaging is first, like, the first time around, but actually trying to really kind of digest it and really think about, maybe there is a message there that is more than what I'm actually thinking it is. That is
Right.
maybe less negative and actually more positive. It's just, so I've been doing that for myself, because I know, sometimes I'll read a post and I'm like, I don't understand it, or I don't like it, but then I'll go back through it again and realize there's a reason for the message.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the person was brave enough to speak up and
Right.
speak this, even if it went against the grain of probably a lot of people that read the post.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I agree. I agree with that. And we we in this industry as coaches, um, we tend to pick on social media because that is where a lot of the a lot of negativity comes out. A lot of the habits that we as human beings have that we could really afford to improve upon.
Mhm.
That's where those habits come out. Um, as we've mentioned many times before, our our default programming is to find danger, to find fault, to find the problem in every interaction. Whether it's an interaction with myself, whether it's an interaction with Mother Nature, whether it's an interaction with humanity, whether it's an interaction with technology, whatever it is, in every interaction, our brain's main function is to find the problem. That's what it's designed to do, to find the problem, because we're forever looking for the danger so that we can solve the problem far enough in advance that we don't have to feel the consequences of that problem. So when we look at the negativity, that's a natural thing to do. We're supposed to do that. And what I like is that we have reason, we have logic, we have emotions, we have the ability to look past that danger. I'm not suggesting we should stop seeing the danger, but what I'm suggesting is we can see that and what else is out there. And like you said, if we read it 2 or 3 times, if we read the post a few times, another tool that I like to use is I'll use an AI voice. Like, for example, I'll copy and paste it into Word because Word has the option of reading it out to you. And its AI voice is really quite a computer voice. It doesn't sound very human at all. And therefore, those emotional inflections are really hard to interpret through the computer voice. And therefore, what that allows me to do is to hear this phrase without my interpretations of what they're trying to say. I can hear it just with computer voice, um, which allows me to hear it separated from the emotional impact I've put on it, so that I can then look at the emotional impact I've put on it and decide if that's what I want to hear, if that's what I want to put into it. Because sometimes I do. Sometimes there is an emotion in the post that I want to see. And sometimes that emotion is something I put there. Somebody else, you might have posted something, somebody else might have posted something, and I want to put an emotion in there. I want to react to it. And I can do that. I have the freedom to. What I want to do is make sure I have the choice to. I want to choose when I put those reactions in. I don't want to have those reactions just default come into my head without my permission. So reading them 2 or 3 times is one way to do that. Like I said, I use the computer voice to read them to me, so I can, especially on those ones when I'm really really having a hard time separating from my emotion. I do that with something that I've written. If I've written something especially emotional, if it came from a place of emotion from my heart, especially if it was a place of judgment or a place of hurt or a place of pain, I will then get that computer voice to read it back to me so that I can hear it separate from those emotions, and look at any possible interpretations the prospective reader might see. So those are a few things that, a couple things that we can do to help move past those things. And when you're speaking up, it's also important to notice when other people are only looking at what you've said from their limited vision. We all have a limited vision. All of us do, no matter how self-aware or developed we become. We all have a limited vision. There's only so many things we can see, and we're going to see those things through our limited vision. So when you're speaking up, it's important to understand that no matter how positive or negative somebody's being towards your what you've said, it's coming from their limited vision. The secret is we can connect with those people whose limited vision fits what we're trying to say. And if we don't connect with them, it's because their limited vision didn't fit what we were trying to say. It doesn't mean anything personally about you, about me. It just means that they didn't fit. And that's okay too. It's supposed to happen that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that tool. I've never used that before, actually, for listening back to someone's post, but that's kind
It's
of
because you're
brilliant.
not a technophile like I am.
Yeah, and I think that's great because that really takes away the emotion, and you and I've talked about how emotion can sometimes muddy the waters because if you are in a space where someone says something to you and maybe you feel hurt by it, maybe you feel hurt by the post, and so
Yeah.
you're responding from an emotional place rather than, okay, let me first like dial it back a second. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not going to uh, press enter and post that. Maybe I'm going to wait a moment when I'm not in that place where I'm feeling like my feelings are hurt, or my hair is up on the back of my neck. One of the things I want to talk about the fear of speaking up is the what I call the secret words, the ones that
Mm,
typically are coming at the end of your sentences, but you're not saying them out loud. And I think what happens is that there are people will say, well, I didn't say that. But it because you're not saying something doesn't mean you're not thinking it. And so, as I said, I wanted to bring that up about my own experience around this because I was I'm pretty motivational for people. I like to uplift and encourage and support and inspire people to go out and live their best lives.
hmm
And there's a phrase that I've been using for quite a long time, actually, maybe a little over a year, and it's that everyone is born to add value in this world. And I didn't realize it at the time until I started getting into my head about things because as a coach, when you're evolving and when you're changing, maybe you're adding, maybe you're getting better. Obviously, we're getting better because we want to. And the reason why we do that is because we want to serve our clients at the highest level possible. But what ended up happening for me was I got coached it myself. Well, first of all, I was having the moment. And I realized that I was taking on someone else's inaction as a reflection of myself, meaning a client's inaction to do the work as a reflection of me as a coach. And so here I am starting to think like I'm having this conversation, like literally in the room. I'm having this conversation with God and I'm asking, like, you've got me on this spiritual path. This is my vision. This is what I see myself doing. You're putting me in things in my way, people in my way, opportunities in my way to help me grow. And yet here I am. This is not the first time this has happened where someone is not doing the work and not even thinking that I was putting their inaction on me as a reflection of me.
Right.
And so then I started thinking, like, why aren't you answering me? I feel like you've got me. I'm alone on an island all by myself, and you're not showing me how to do anything. And so as I'm really like feeling it in my chest, in my throat. And I was just feeling so like so heart, my heart was felt like it was breaking.
Yeah.
And I realized that at that moment, what happened was on my phone, there's an app that I have downloaded. It's called Meditation Moments. So it's not a plug for them, but they have quotes that pop up. And that quote that popped up for me that day was, "Sometimes silence is the answer." And yeah, it was like, what? And I was pissed. I was
Yeah.
angry. I was thinking, what do you mean sometimes silence is the answer? And so, as I'm going about my day, I knew I was going on a coaching call the next day with my coach and my peers. And I thought, you know what? I'm putting in the question. And it was all around mindset. And she was a mindset coach. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do this. And so while I'm waiting for the next day, here I am trying to find evidence to support my limited belief that everyone has, value. Everyone's doing great. I'm the reason why this person isn't doing the work. I'm the reason why this person isn't responding to my messages. And so as I'm going about my day, the next day I have my call, and I didn't even tell you because we had our YouTube live, and I didn't even tell you anything about what I was feeling, what I was going through. So I have my coaching call and realize she's pulling it out of me, and I'm realizing, yeah, there's something going on here. And I realized, she said, "There's something you're not saying." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Everyone but me." And that's exactly what I'd been thinking. Everyone else was supposed to, was deserving, was worthy, was good enough. Everyone else but me. And I
Right.
didn't even know I was doing that. And but the fear of speaking up about that, it was a fear because first of all, I'm telling this to a room full of people I don't really know, but I felt like that was probably going to be the best transformational moment for me because it meant I had to get over the fear of saying what I was really thinking,
Yeah.
and at the possibility of them interpreting me, right? Them deciding whatever they wanted to put as an identity on me based on me being open and vulnerable of how I was feeling. Now, they were very supportive because this is a very supportive community. And out of that, as I found my way through to the other side, because it is about transformation, and she was
Yep.
fantastic at pulling this out of me. I wrote an article about it, and it
Yeah.
really, really was powerful. But it was a powerful experience for me because I think it was the final part for me to truly heal from the fear of speaking my truth, of speaking up, of speaking out without feeling like I cannot say anything about anything that has to do with me because I'm not worthy and deserving of better than what I'm getting. But I can speak up for other people and be an advocate for them, be a champion for them because I truly believe everybody else but myself, and realize that I am as important and as worthy and deserving as everyone else on the planet. And when I was able to do that, it was liberating, but it allowed me to then start finding the evidence because I truly believe that part of the healing is finding the evidence to
Yes.
support the new thought. So I
Beliefs.
decided was speaking up is a work in progress, but I'm getting better at it every day, and I have
Yeah.
been ever since that day. But it really, truly, when you start to like shift the way you speak about yourself, you speak into things, that helps you to get over that fear. And I think part of the fear also is being seen because you're being seen as vulnerable, and some people might look at that as being seen as weak. But
Hmm.
I've had the most powerful experiences in my life of transformation when I've just allowed myself to let go. And that's what I teach my clients is it's not about you being weak, it's not about me judging you, it's about you letting go of a piece of yourself that you've been keeping hidden, and it's there, and
Right.
just so you don't speak it, it doesn't mean you're not thinking it. And when you can
Yeah.
say it out loud and maybe write it down on paper, it has less power over you. And so
Hmm.
that's what I learned from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, those words we don't speak. When you first brought that concept to me, I thought it was one of the most powerful things I'd ever heard, because we don't admit to those things, even to ourselves. You started out by saying those things that we say, and people say, well, you said this, and we said, no, no. And we say, no, no, I never said that. I didn't say that. Well, you're right. The words out of your mouth didn't say what I'm interpreting. But the secret words you didn't say, they certainly came out in everything else that you said. Um, and while we don't think those secret words emerge, they're the only thing that comes out. The other words that we say, the other actions that we do, have less impact than those secret words. And what you did with your coach is you brought those secret words out into the light, you spoke them verbally, and you were able to then, like you said, they lost power, remove their power. And because you did that, suddenly those secret words weren't holding you back anymore. And it's the same thing in the secret words. I find this a lot in couples in strife, couples in struggle, when they're struggling in their relationship. Both of them have secret judgments of the other person that they're not saying, or maybe that they have said once in the distance past, but haven't and still have thought. The other person's feeling those judgments. Whether you say them or not doesn't matter. Honestly, it really, literally does not matter if you say it, because they feel it. They feel those secret words far more than any thoughts or actions you do or don't say. Those things that you add to the end of the sentence, the way you put it.
Mm-hmm.
They feel that. That is the main source of your communication. Whatever you're saying to your partner, to your spouse, to your coworkers, to your, like you and I say them to each other. This is one of the things that helped us to speak up to each other, to be vulnerable in our partnership, was by speaking out some of those secret words, because it allowed us to then show up fully and intentionally as everything we wanted to be. This honesty you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that honesty is not about not lying, because sometimes we lie. Everybody does it. And most of the time, we're doing it for honorable reasons. I believe honesty is sharing those secret words. Honesty means there are no secret words at the end of the sentence. There are no secret judgments at the end of my tirade. There are no secret, thoughts that I'm not communicating. That and I'm not suggesting you should reveal everything. You and I haven't revealed everything to each other. We just couldn't. We don't have enough time. Um, what I'm saying is that if there is a secret thought at the end of your phrase, at the end of your thought, that has to come out too. Because without that, the communication's only half there. The honesty comes from saying those secret words. And when we are speaking our voice and we say those secret words at the end, this is how people connect with us. Because people are hearing their secret words in yours. People are hearing their internal voices that they don't even know they have in your voice, in your words, in your heart, in your feelings, in your emotions. What you're communicating that is what we call subtextual. It doesn't, it's reading between the lines. We naturally do that. We have to do that. It's part of what our brain does. Um, it's part of what our brain is designed to do. This is where most of the communication comes from. We call it body language, but it's so much more than that. It's what's beneath the words, what's behind the words, what's between the words. And it's those thoughts which help us connect to other people. It's also those thoughts that prevent other people from connecting with us. And it's only those words that we communicate, that we share, that will prevent some people from connecting with us, that allow others to connect with us. The point is, we can't and shouldn't try to connect with everybody. In order to connect with those people who are truly yours to connect with, you have to be willing to lose, break, or even destroy connections with those who aren't yours to connect with. And so many of us grow up learning to connect with those that were never ours to connect with in the first place. Most of the early relationships we learn in puberty and teenagehood is learning to connect with people that we think are the right ones for us, that somebody taught us, or somebody told us, or we decided were the ones we wanted to be around, and really they were never our people in the first place. So that's what I believe our job is to share those secret thoughts, to share those secret words. Yeah, I love your experience and how you shared that. I've had very many similar experiences, and this is how you and I have created our businesses. This is what we teach people. This is what we help people do, is to see the secret thoughts they have, because most people don't even know they have them. We've buried them so deeply.
Yeah. And you even touched on like that. There's that, I think we have this innate sense of wanting to belong so
Yeah,
badly, um, that we'll do anything to even keep the most toxic of relationships going.
yeah,
And in those relationships, we might have the fear of actually speaking up and speaking our truth for fear of losing that, for fear of being abandoned.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I think you and I both have learned, we've come to realize this, that being vulnerable has been the best thing that we've ever done for ourselves, because it has brought us closer as working partners, but friends. And also it helps us in our own communities to be those leaders that our communities look to, especially as I was saying, in this coaching community where I was being coached. It wasn't just about me. I
yeah,
knew, because I'd had this experience before. One of the most powerful transformational moments was when I was asked to partake in a live coaching session at an event in front of 50 women that I had never met before.
right.
And I raised my hand and went up and did it, thinking I was going to be coached around something else. It wasn't that, but it was probably the best experience of my life. And it actually got me on this path of what I actually do as a coach. It really gave me that clarity. So I knew that going into this call, it wasn't just about me, because again, I know what that feels like to have that powerful transformation. And the first time, not only did I have a breakthrough, but there were many people in the audience. Some of the women came up
Yeah,
to me and they were like, "Thank you so much for sharing your story. We share such a similar background. I really appreciate that you were open to being the one to go up there and share your truth, because it really helped me." It's the
yeah,
same thing that when I went into this new recent coaching experience, and I shared my truth again, and then afterwards there were other people speaking up. Well, yeah, I have a question around this, and it gave them permission to be open, to be vulnerable, to speak up and ask for help. And so for me, I think part of it, and I think as well for you, we both do this because we want to be leaders in our
yeah,
communities and help pave the way for other people to feel confident enough to speak up, even when they're afraid, to say how they're feeling, so that those words, the secret words, aren't just hanging out there, even though they're there. And we know that because we can feel it.
yeah,
Again, it's really just going deeper, and just, again, there's the body language, but you can tell by how someone ends their sentences, how they start their sentences, how there's pauses. There's more to what they're trying to say. And so I think both of us, we've learned this, and that's allowed us to help other people to draw themselves out, to have that permission that they give to themselves to speak up. This has been such a revelationary tool for me, just
yeah,
thinking about the secret space in my head, that all of
yeah,
these words were swirling around. I knew they were there. I know I'd spoken them before. Most of them I know are not true. But when there's those two powerful words, they were the most powerful for me for the last year, but me,
Yeah.
was incredible to actually have that revealed and to have it come out, and realizing how can that even possibly be true when there's all this evidence that lines up that negates it,
Right.
and just being able to get it out was powerful for me, but it was
Yeah.
also for each and every one that was on the call. So,
Yeah.
and we've had these calls too. I mean, we've both shared and had those moments where it's like, oh, so you're thinking this, and we've helped each other through
Yeah.
some of those thoughts.
Yeah. To see evidence all of that, of all of that, all you have to do is listen back to some of these videos. We don't usually do it on video, but sometimes we've done it right on these calls, and you can see evidence of that in some of these recordings that we've done. Yeah, we do have these secret words. We do have, and those secrets and the fear of other people judging those secrets is what stops us, is what causes the fear of speaking up. It comes from the the thought that I'm not good enough, that I'm not enough, that I'm going to lose people, that if they find out what's really underneath, they'll leave. And like you mentioned, we have an innate a craving, a need for social, for other people. It's a desire we have. We need it. And although many people turn to animals and nature to get their connection, um, most of the people that do that personify nature and animals. They give them people personalities. It's a way of connecting socially. We have that need. We we fear the judgment of other people. We fear the brains of other people. The brain that looks for danger. We fear that. We fear it in ourselves. We fear it in other people. We fear that. And one, it's a good thing to fear that because some people's brains, mine included, will find danger where it's not there. And two, we are not meant to connect without the fear. We are meant to connect through the fear. It's the fear that helps us connect. It's that speaking up and calling it vulnerable. It's that opening up my chest and letting you see my heart directly. That's what allows us to connect. That is handing you the knife and say, stab me right here, and waiting for you to not do so. Waiting for you, trusting that when I let you, you won't. And sometimes you will. And that's okay because I can heal from that. Sometimes people will hurt you. And there are people who intentionally hurt nearly everybody. They're not as prevalent as we like to think, but they do exist. And the fear of trying to stop that is what stops us from really opening our hearts, really speaking up, really saying what is necessary for us to say. What will allow those people who really want what we have to hear what we have to say, to connect with who we are, who need that. The people who need that can only connect when we're willing to take the risk that some people won't. Some people will be hurt by it. Only when we're willing to take the risk can we find those people who really truly need what we have. And not all of us are here to serve. You can be a mechanic and open up your heart. You can be a nurse and open up your heart. You can be a whatever, a scientist and open up your heart. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to be a coach to do this work. You don't have to be a therapist or a doctor or some sort of a service industry. You can simply open up your heart to allow those people near you, those people close to you, to connect to you. And only by doing so will they choose to. Some will choose not to. And that's supposed to happen. Because by them choosing not to, you have space then for those who want to. right? And this is how this works. This is what speaking up can do, what
Yeah.
opening up our minds and our hearts can do for us. Yeah.
So, yes, I'm sorry. I'm just making my husband over here be quiet. He's watching The Master, so he's excited.
Nice. I'm jealous.
So, okay. So here's the thing about also, I think I love what you shared because there are going to be people who are not going to care for what you have to say.
Right.
But the most important person that you should care about for what you have to say is yourself. And again, you said it doesn't. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be someone who's certified to do anything, who has a license or any type of training around this.
Right.
It's really just being a human. That's where you get your credentials from, is being a human.
Yeah.
And I think it's being okay to show your when I say your authentic self, it means being seen as who you truly are. And if that's not who you want to show to the world because maybe you don't like the person that you are, then that's when you do the inner work to change the person, to see the change in the world, be the change in the world that you want to see.
Yeah.
However, if you do like the person that you are and you're afraid to be seen as inadequate based upon experiences in your life, then again, that's when you want to maybe surround yourself with other like minded people who are out there in the self development journey, who maybe, or people who are close to you that care about you. Or if you don't have that and you want to explore that, that's when you can get yourself a coach, because that's what coaches do. A little bit different, I think, than what therapists do, because therapists are talking you through a lot of your feelings, a lot of your, the
Yeah.
emotions around your life experiences. And it's not to say that that is not a good profession or that's not going to
Right.
help you,
Different
but
purpose.
it has a purpose. And as well, and I think that what I've found for myself, and Andy, and as Andy's the way that Andy coaches, is that we want you to be able to talk through your emotions, but we also don't want you to stay stuck in the same story.
Right.
So your story could be the same story, but it's a different way that you're now talking about it, because it no longer holds power. Again, the secret words come out into the world where they no longer hold power. So now when you talk about your story, it could be to help somebody else like you were before, that needed to hear that particular outcome or that particular story or experience because they're going through something similar. And it could be
Yeah.
a friend, it could be someone in your family, and it could be a complete stranger, especially if you're on social media and you decide to post something and you're open and vulnerable. My most recent coach was David Bayer. And one of the things I loved that he shared and how he shares his story is that it stuck with me. So it stuck with me is just such a great phrasing. And I just love that he said it. He said, when you're sharing, people resonate more with you when you're showing your scars, not your stars. And I agree with that. Again, I resonate with people who are truthful about, or open and vulnerable about, the backstory. So Andy and I are both coaches. We come from some trauma in our lives, but we also have been able to do a lot and help our clients. We've come up, we've really honed our skills around what we do. And for both of us, when we are sharing, again, like today, I shared my story of my secret words. And I really resonate with people like that, who are maybe in the industry, but they show you that they are first and foremost a human being like everyone else, who has all of these things that goes on in their lives, and that
Yep.
they have to sometimes wade their way through. Sometimes the waters are muddy,
Yep.
but being open to and sharing that, again, I believe has the most power to transform someone's life, rather than saying, hey, this is what I do. And these are all of the great outcomes of what I've got. And you can have this too. And yes, that's part of it. But I also want to say, hey, by the way, I went through this, and man, was I down in the dumps. And this is why. And man, this is what I did to get out. Well, then well, that's where I am, and that's what you did. I want to know how, right? And so that gives people more of, I think, something to feel a connection to. And that's why I think as we learn to speak up, as we learn to not fear showing who we truly are, the authentic self, and that's kind of like when I started thinking about what does really authentic self really mean. And for me, it was really just about being real about my experiences, showing, being vulnerable, being transparent if I am working through things, showing that just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that I have every single answer fleshed out and that I'm still working on things. I'm going to turn off my Facebook. My brother's calling me. And when I've learned that I share those moments, when I share who I am as a person, and it's transparent about, some of the things that I'm going through, I think that resonates more with people. That's what I mean by being authentically me, showing, as David would say, showing my scars. And so that people can relate to me, not, I'm not up in this pedestal and you feel like you can't get to me. I want you to be able to feel like
Yeah.
we could sit down, have a coffee, or in Andy's case, the midnight coach, go out for a beer. No, but really, or even a coffee, because I know Andy
Yeah.
drinks coffee
Yep.
when
You
he's
see it on these videos.
out. Yeah. But you'll drink coffee when you go out to do your, like, you'll go out, watch a sports
Yeah.
event,
Go to the lounge and have a
and
coffee.
you
I
will have
usually.
a coffee. So I know you
Yeah.
do that. But again, it's really feeling like, hey, come on in. I'm bringing you into my world. I want you to see
Yeah.
who I really am. And when you can do that, the fear starts to subside because you start realizing everybody is really pretty much all thinking the same thing. Like, if
Yeah.
I show myself, what will people say? And
Yep.
when we all start realizing that nobody's actually looking at you because when they're walking into a room and you think, oh, everyone's staring at me, I look funny. And really what they're doing is they're looking to make sure that there's no wrinkles in their suit, that they are standing tall and proud, that they have enough in their credentials to share so they don't feel inadequate. Then you realize we're all the same. And so
Yeah.
everyone has this fear of speaking up at some point in their lives, even the greats,
Yep.
even some of the most famous and powerful coaches out there have had these moments, and
Yep.
we know some of them. So it's really being okay that when you want to be your authentic self, and you realize that just getting over the fear, or actually stepping through the fear and just punching it in the face and saying, get out of my way, and just saying it, is probably going to be the most powerful transformational moment you'll have, because then you'll realize, oh, that doesn't make sense. It's
Yeah.
kind of like silly. It's not true, because there's powerful evidence that's even way more supportive of all of the positive stuff in my life. And then you'll
Right.
realize, oh, I got to just say this out loud more often, or write it down in my journal more often, get it out of my head, talk to somebody about it and get that out, because a lot of your time, your friends, your family will tell you, what do you mean? I've never thought that about you. But
Right.
again, these are just secret words we carry with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. We do connect better when we say our truth. Famous people are scared of speaking too. This is what people are looking for when we connect with other people. And yes, some people will judge you. And quite honestly, some people, that is how they deal with life, is by judging others. They feel good about themselves by judging others. Sometimes when you walk into the room, people are looking at you. But I promise you, they're not looking at you to judge how bad you are. They're trying, if people are looking at you to try and put you down, it's because some part of their brain has seen you as better than them. Some part of their brain has decided they need to feel better than they perceive you as feeling, because they perceive you as feeling better than them. So sometimes you are the center of attention, and that isn't a bad thing. You can choose to be flattered by that, or you can choose to be judgmental about that, to judge yourself. Sometimes they are looking at the one wrinkle in your piece of clothing because they can't get over the 30 they found in their own. right? Sometimes they are looking at the one hair that's out of place because they can't get over the 4 hours it took them to do their hair, right? Sometimes they do judge us, they will judge you. And sometimes that's okay because the people who judge are coming from a place of lack. When I judge myself or other people, I'm coming from a place of lack. I do it, all of us do. And when I'm not coming from a place of lack, when those other people are not coming from a place of lack, when we are not judging, the thing that makes you most relatable is that one wrinkle, is that hair out of place, is that scar, is that reason that they can see, oh, wait a minute, you are human like everybody else. You're not a painting that is perfect every time you show up in the world. You you do have your brother call you when you've left your Facebook open, right? We're people too. This is what happens when we're doing live recordings, and we're people too. Even if we were to pre-record these, I don't think we would edit that stuff out because this is who we are. This is what we want to be, right? So this this is the life. This is the life we live. This is the life you can choose. This is the life we want to encourage you to choose. To show up as yourself, fully and completely, as fully as you can, and to be okay with how fully you with how much you hold back. What you're capable of sharing right now, share all of that. And don't worry about or judge all the things you can't yet share. That's okay too. Be your fullest self that you're capable of being in this moment. I want to see that. Leslie wants to see that. Half the world wants to see that, and the other half doesn't matter. This is what we encourage you to do. This is what we're on this conversation for. This is why we have these calls so that we can help you decide and figure out and choose to be the best version of yourself that you're capable of being in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. You kind of, to me, just summed it up in two words what authentic self really is. And that's
Hmm.
fullest self. You don't have
Yeah,
to be more than or less than anyone else. Just be you. And that's kind of like what being authentic really is all about. It's not about being better than someone else. It's not being, above anyone else. It's not having more credentials or more money or more things. It's just about who you are as a human
yeah,
being, and being okay to like explore how you can improve upon yourself first for you. And then again, if you there's things that you want to see in the world, the changes that you want to see in the world start with you. It just takes it one voice at a time, joining in with another voice, and it soon becomes a roar. So I
yeah,
really love having this conversation with you today. I It's been healing for me, I think, um, over the last, month of having, this revealed to me and being able to just say, what this is, it's okay, and it's a work in progress. And yeah, I think it can be really scary
yeah,
to be vulnerable, because there are going to be people out there who will try to take advantage of that. But I think a lot of the time is when someone's out there doing that, it's usually because they don't like who they are, so
yeah,
they deflect everything else onto other people, and they'll look for ways to make themselves feel better, kind of like instant gratification. And so, but I just wanted to say thank you for this conversation today. It's been
yeah. It's
really,
been wonderful. It's
really good. And
been a powerful one.
yeah, I feel like honestly, I could, believe it or not, can go have a nap now because I feel so relaxed. But I hope you guys found value today. And, if there's anything that we touched on that kind of really resonated with you, that you felt was really powerful, um, revelation for you in your own life, we'd love to, hear from you. If
Yeah.
you've got any questions, we'd love to hear from you. And we'd
Yeah.
also love it if there's anything you want us to talk about. We're always looking for topics. We have no problem coming up with our own. There is so much to talk about. But if there's something that you want to hear from us, please make sure
Let
that you
us know.
post it below. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
Let
you
us know. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all the wonderful YouTube things that we like you to do. Um, let us know. Get in a conversation. Share with us. We'd like to hear from you. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful conversation, and we'll see you again next Friday.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.